Welcome to This Week with Sheriff Dave Phalen, a weekly program on LSN Television, Channel 9, Time Warner, right here in Lancaster, and also the folks over at 90.9 WFCO Radio, where we have guests from within the Fairfield County Sheriff's Office and guests from throughout Fairfield County and beyond each and every week. And back by popular demand is Sergeant Rob Hamler. Good to see you, Sarge.
Good to see you, sir.
And last week we spent a lot of time talking about the SCRAP program, a program that we have during the summer. And for the folks that may have missed last week's program, why don't you just give a little bit of an idea of what the program is about and how it works?
Okay. The SCRAP program, it actually stands for Street Crime Reduction Apprehension Program. It consists of 3 deputies from the Fairfield County Sheriff's Office, 1 officer from the Lancaster Police Department, and myself. We actually are ran out of the Major Crimes Unit, which Commander Brown has been gracious enough to give us office space and access to all of their equipment out there.
Okay, and for the viewers and listeners that may not know what the Major Crimes Unit is, that is a unit that started shortly after I became sheriff 12 years ago, and it's detectives from the Lancaster Police Department, the Pickerington Police Department, the Fairfield County Sheriff's Office, and assisted by the Hocking County Sheriff's Office. And it is a task force that investigates drugs. And one of the reasons that we have a SCRAP program is we have school resource officers that work in the schools during the school months, and during the summer, when school is out, they're able to come back to the sheriff's office. It gives us some additional manpower to put together the SCRAP team. Now, last week, before we went off the air, we talked a little bit about if you have a child or a loved one that you suspect may be involved in drug activity. And I'm often surprised today that whenever I talk to groups, how many people in some way is affected by this problem, whether it's a parent, a child, a relative, a friend, a neighbor. It really has expanded beyond anything that I would have imagined 12 years ago when I became sheriff. What are some things that parents or family members or even any kind of loved one needs to look for in behaviors?
Drastic mood swings, drastic mood changes. I think as a parent, it's important to know the friends of your child, not just, hey, this is such and such from school. It's important to actually know their parents, to speak to their parents, find out a little bit about the children before, you're letting your child be with them. And by all means, you have every right in the world to search your child's property, search their room on a regular basis. If you have concerns that your child may be even using tobacco or you have concerns that they're using marijuana, by all means, you have the right to go in and search on a regular basis. The sad thing that we're seeing is that at a younger and younger age, it seems like children are starting to use. And it's actually gotten to the point now to where when a lot of people grew up in this area, there may have been an issue with marijuana or something along those lines. But now it's moved more in the direction of opiates. You actually have junior high and high school kids that are using heroin, are using cocaine, using crack. And I grew up in this community. I never imagined that it would be this bad of a problem.
Now, were you at Lancaster?
Yes.
Lancaster High School?
Yes.
So when you went to school, probably had marijuana and some alcohol, but certainly none of the hard drugs we see today.
Correct. I heard on TV, or you would see on TV a show that would have crack or cocaine, but I've never witnessed that or experienced that when I was growing up in this community. Yes, there was some students that would use marijuana or drink at parties or whatever, but never the hard drugs like we're seeing today.
Yeah, and I think a lot of parents really don't think that this could happen to my child, or they wouldn't get involved in these kind of activities. But certainly each generation, it's important the kids want to fit in, and many times they will to go along with their friends or people they know, they will get involved. And I'm often concerned, I think a lot of times, the way some of these kids get introduced into this is even like they may date someone, and they may have not had any experience with drugs, maybe the last thing on their mind. They may be from a wonderful family, but they'll get involved with maybe a young girl, get involved with a guy that is involved in this drug trafficking and drug activity, and then all of a sudden he brings her into it and says, hey, try this, and the next thing you know, you have a daughter that's addicted to heroin.
I'm sure peer pressure is a large part of it, and some of these drugs, especially like heroin, if they try it once, there's a good possibility that they're going to be hooked.
It is amazing because unlike marijuana or alcohol or some of these other drugs, not that that's a good thing, it's a terrible thing, but the addictive qualities of these drugs, I think when you look at heroin or the opiates, a couple things. They say that it's a euphoria or a high that they typically don't get from other drugs. It really, at least initially, makes them feel very good. Secondly, the tolerance to these drugs is amazing. In other words, someone can start with the opiates, which is Oxycontin, Vicodin, something like this, and start with a few pills, and they're not inexpensive. I don't know, what is a pill out there? It could cost $25, $35, maybe more.
It could, and that's one of the issues that we're having is that they can actually buy heroin cheaper.
That's right.
So I think that's one of the contributing factors to the problem that we're having in the Lancaster area. I think that originally they could have started out just by using pills, but then they get the same high at a cheaper price. And I've experienced some of these people will lose everything, and all they care about is that high. I mean, they'll lose custody of their children, they'll lose their home, they'll lose their cars, they'll just roam from house to house wherever somebody will let them stay. And they'll go for days without sleep, or eating, or and you can actually, if you looked at some of our booking photos, you could go back from the jail and you can look at some of these guys that were maybe in there for something like driving under suspension, and then you look at them 3 years later, and throughout that time they've been using heroin, and you can't even recognize them. They don't even look like the same person. Yeah,
it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And and when you think about it, you have a drug where the effect, at least initially, they like. There's a high tolerance, but then the last part of that equation is they get terribly sick when they quit taking it.
Another issue that we're having is methamphetamine. And methamphetamine, a lot of these guys, they can make it off of things that they can buy at the store. Anybody can buy the items that are used to cook meth, and it just destroys a person. I mean, they will lose their teeth, they will lose everything.
They get scabs on their face, and I mean, what they're doing is they're ingesting a poison into their system.
Yeah, exactly.
So are we seeing much meth out there?
We have received some information that there are a few, but we're following up on those tips and those leads. It's a really dangerous situation for the deputies and the officers when we do encounter a meth lab. They're highly explosive. The chemicals that they use are very flammable. Just actually by inhaling the fumes from the chemicals, it can damage your lungs permanently. So when we encounter a situation like that, we basically have to bring in a hazmat team. The officers that work out at the Major Crimes Unit, they're very good at dismantling labs and They have extensive training in that area. So basically what we do is when we encounter one, we'll contact them. They'll come out and dismantle it for us.
Within the last couple of weeks, I've seen some intelligence reports from some of our deputies that have come across individuals that have been taking bath salts.
Yes.
Snorting bath salts and those kind of things. And I don't think that there's anything that you could do that could be more dangerous as far as the way it may affect you. We had an incident the other night where a guy was actually holding a knife to his head, his own head, and was threatening suicide, said people were after him. And I've heard just a lot of terrible stories recently about the kind of psychological effect bath salts has.
I dealt with an individual not too long ago who just thought that he would hear voices, and he would think that he was just extremely paranoid. He thought people were coming after him constantly. From speaking to his family, they said that he's just not the same person. By any means, his personality is completely changed. They hallucinate, they see things that aren't there, they hear things that aren't there. It's a very dangerous drug.
So are we still seeing some of the, so obviously we're seeing some of it. Like I said, within the last couple of weeks, I've seen 2 reports where the same kind of things, it was peculiar behavior. And I don't think anyone knows long-term what effect this stuff's going to have, whether this is going to be a permanent problem they will have, or it's something that's, in a few months they're going to get a little bit better.
Yeah. It's fairly new, and I agree with you. There hasn't been enough study on it yet to find out if it's reversible or not.
Now, before we go off the air, I want to make sure that the citizens out there, if they do have information about drug activity, suspicious activity, they don't have to know a tremendous amount of information, but if they do have at least a suspicion that something's going on at a particular house, that there's a car bringing drugs into our community, that there's individuals involved, that they call.
Yes.
And go ahead and give us that number.
To my desk at the Fairfield County Sheriff's Office, the telephone number is 740-652-7902. We have a tip line that's set up at the Major Crimes Unit. That telephone number is area code 740-654-5223, and you will receive a series of prompts, and one of the prompts will direct you to the scrap team. Before we go off the air, touching a little bit about our Community Watch program. You're the commander of the Community Watch program. Anything going on that program? I know we were thinking about starting a class here one of these days. Yeah, as soon as we get enough candidates. I think at this point I have around 8 applications. We would like to get somewhere around 15 before we offered an academy. We have several events that are going to be coming up this summer. We have the Earth Angels Cruise in. We have the 4th of July at the fairgrounds. We have the Lancaster Festival. The Community Watch program will be participating in all of those. Buckeye Lake, they're going to have a big 4th of July event where our Community Watch people will be involved. And if someone's interested in becoming a Community Watch member, what do they need to do? What kind of training do they have to become a part of that? Basically, they can receive an application by just going to the Fairfield County Sheriff's Office website. They can download that application, they can drop it off, or they can just stop into our Wheeling Street facility, ask for me, or just ask for any sergeant, and we should be able to give them an application. When we decide to offer the academy, what we'll do is a background check into each person. We will run a criminal history check on them. From there, we'll put them through a 40-hour academy, which is held at the Fairfield County Sheriff's Office in the evenings. They'll receive training in traffic control, actually the LiDAR, which is the laser, for speed monitoring, patrol tactics and techniques. It's a really good program. We'll also go into the liability issues, the fact that they are our eyes and ears. They do not take any enforcement action. They're always partnered in groups of 2, and there's certain hours that they patrol and that they can't patrol because once it gets dark, we really don't. We're looking out for their safety. I think it's been probably one of the best programs that we've been able to put together since I've been in the sheriff's office. How many members do we have now? We have somewhere around 98.
So almost 100, and we're hoping to get about 20 before we start the next class, have about 8. So again, if you're interested in being part of that class, what do they need to do?
You can go to the Fairfield County Sheriff's Office website, which is sheriff.fairfield.oh.us, or you can just Google Fairfield County Sheriff's Office to get to our website. There's actually a link on our website where you can fill out the application, and you can print that off, and you can drop that off at the Sheriff's Office.
Sergeant, appreciate you being with us 2 days ago. I'd like to have you back later in the summer to kind of give us an update on how the scrap team's going, and I'm sure you're going to be doing a lot of neat things in the weeks and months to come. It has been a great program last year, and it's starting off like gangbusters this year.
Yeah.
To you, the viewers and listeners, I do appreciate you joining us each and every week, and certainly the folks here at Fairfield Christian Academy that put this program together, produce it, and tape it for us on a regular basis, and it is very much appreciated. And the folks over at 90.9 WFCO Radio. Well, the clock on the wall says we've got to go. Do appreciate each and every one of you joining us this week. Until next week, same time, same place. God bless, and we'll see you right here.
So, do you have any questions?
What is your soup of the day?
We have a mulligatawny soup.
Oh, do you have any specials?
We have a steak special today.
Oh, how's that cooked?
That's pan-seared and then...
Does it come with a side dish? Is it grilled? Can I have it steamed? So, what do you recommend? What kind of pie do you have? You're an actor. Aren't you from Ohio?
Any questions?
Ask questions. For the 10 questions everyone should know, go to ahrq.gov.